Class time. I see half of y'all are already here and seated in your seats ready to go. Must be something special. Certainly can't be me. I guess it's the snake that's about to bite me, right? Morons. All right. Welcome to class. This is the Road to Concord. I am your host / Professor Joe Bakanovic. Today is March 10th, 2023, Friday. Wouldn't you know it? Weekend went by so fast. I covered 6 days in like 12 hours. It was 24 hours, something like that. Yep. If you caught it yesterday, I had one of those getting too old for my own good moments, and I thought it was Friday, so I signed off for the weekend. It was a short weekend. Anyhow, you can catch this show on Rumble. That's our homeroom. Go to Rumble, search for the Road to Concord. Look on the channels, please. And when you find us, if you have not already done so, click the follow button. It might require you to set up an account. It's cheap, easy, and free. Costs nothing except for a few minutes of your time. It will greatly help the show. We're up to 83 followers. I'm shooting for 100. It's according to what Rumble says, it'd make it a little easier on my pocketbook on this end when that happens. So we're seeing if we can get there. I'm also throwing the show today to Facebook. It's on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter today as well. So you can catch it in many places. Easier to share it. Do whatever you want to do with it there. Phone line is open, 229-469-0335. There's no homework today, so there's nothing going on the blog page. But the blog page is, find that at theroadtoconcord.com. Finally, you can email me, joe@theroadtoconcord.com. If you ever need it, the phone number and the email are there on the bottom of your screen. If you're listening to the podcast, I know I got to get better at giving that information to you more often. I'm working on it. I'm slow. I'm thick in the head, guys. Come on, y'all know that by now. In Twitch, Birdie21 said that they keep their notifications on. The way I signed off yesterday sounded like I was taking Friday off. Almost did. Didn't realize what I was doing, Birdie. Sorry about that. But yeah, folks, if you keep your notifications on, you'll know when I schedule a new show. And somebody sent me a message, asked, I didn't see you on Freedom Networks. Folks, we're not with Freedom Networks anymore. Sorry about that. Not going to go into it. It's a good parting. Don't worry. There's no hard feelings or ugliness there. So don't worry about that. But stand alone. If you ever find, what the heck happened, try Rumble first. And then if not Rumble, go to the blog page. If you really want to keep up with the show and what I'm doing, go to the blog page, left-hand column, scroll down a little bit, hit the follow button. That way, if anything happens that I need to let you know about, that blog page, I can send you notes. If I get totally censored by everybody else on social media, even Rumble throws me away, the blog page is where you're going to be able to find me because I own that. And if WordPress takes that down, I can sue them because I'm not in violation of any of their rules. All right, it is Friday. It's Founding Fathers Friday. A little bit. We're going to get back to what we were doing last week. We were rewriting the Constitution last week. Today, we're going to go take a look at the Bill of Rights. But we got a little recap to do first. The Arctic Tortoise got a hold of the full Tucker Carlson clip that I was trying to show yesterday. And he turned it into a video that I can actually play, the one that didn't have audio. I want to pick up where we left off yesterday. We're talking about the January 6th videos. Jimmy Zinker sent me a message. He says, quote of the day or quote of the week probably is coming from Glenn Beck. It says Tucker Carlson is in trouble for showing government video of something that apparently didn't happen. The government video that is evidence in a trial case, so, a court case or government prosecution case, so that you're not supposed to be able to show that evidence, blah, 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 according to the media. It's so sensitive and so important that it shows things that didn't happen. Yeah, whatever. I'm going to let Tucker, prone to start and stop show here. I might stop this halfway as we go through it, make comments. Hopefully that doesn't bother you too much, but I want to catch up on this because this was a video I was trying to show you yesterday. Let's catch this real quick.
And welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Last night we aired video from surveillance cameras on Capitol Hill. That video was recorded 26 months to the day before, January 6, 2021. And for 26 months, that footage was held from the American public. The January 6th committee made certain. Now, the Justice Department also kept a lid on that video footage. And in fact, in some cases, DOJ did not share it with criminal defendants who'd been charged on January 6th in violation.
He's about to tell you that if you have exculpatory evidence and you withhold it, that's a violation of the law. We should stop slapping prosecutors on the wrist when they do that. We should start putting them in jail just immediately with no trial whatsoever. Just throw them in jail for the full term that they would have been trying to put the accused in jail for. People, folks, you folks in the government, you're not our friends anymore. You're not service to this country. You're criminals. You're in total violation of the spirit of the Declaration and the Constitution. I'm tired of this. The people who do this, you're worse than the criminal. Anyhow, Tucker's going to tell us.
Of their constitutional rights. So we felt it was a public service to bring what we could to you. There was no justification for keeping this secret any longer, and a powerful argument to be made that sunlight is always and everywhere the best disinfectant. And in fact, because it was video evidence, it is to some extent self-explanatory. Anyone can look at the tape and decide what he or she thinks of it. So the tape we showed last night indicated very clearly that Capitol Hill police, in some cases, escorted protesters through the Capitol as if they were giving a tour. They did that with Jacob Chansley, the so-called QAnon shaman. At one point, they even tried to open locked doors on Chansley's behalf. Chansley was sentenced to 4 years in prison for his crimes in the Capitol on January 6th. And the video we showed you last night raises the obvious question, why? On what grounds? The video I showed you last night also showed that Officer Brian Sicknick was not beaten to death with a fire extinguisher by protesters on January 6th, as the media and Liz Cheney so often claimed.
That would be a government lie. That would be not a mistake. That would be a government lie propagated to get you to think that this was a violent insurrection so that they could come down on you with laws to take away more of your rights, making this whole act from the government a false flag attack. That's why they're mad at Tucker. He's ripping the curtain away from the people behind it. All right, we'll continue.
The video shows Sicknick walking around the building, apparently in good health, after he was supposedly killed. We showed you that video. You can make of it what you will. We also showed you a video that proves Ray Epps, the mysterious...
Ray Epps, we covered him yesterday. We're going to have to go into this guy in more detail. But pay attention to what Tucker's about to tell you.
Protester who encouraged others to breach the Capitol lied to the January 6th committee about where he was on that day. But for some reason, the committee protected him anyway. He was not considered an insurrectionist. He was their ally. So once again, you can draw whatever conclusions you like from that video. We have ours and we shared them with you. But it's really beyond debate that it is good for this country for Americans to be able to see it. The media and politicians, the people in charge, have talked about January 6th every day since it happened for 26 months. And so at some point, the evidence should be presented to the public. In free countries, governments do not lie about protests as a pretext to gain more power for themselves. They don't selectively edit videos for propaganda services and then lie about them in fake hearings and show trials. But that's exactly what happened. And every member of Congress should ask why that happened. But Democrats in the Senate, the Democratic leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, is not asking why. Instead, Chuck Schumer went on the Senate floor today to explode and to say that showing that video, evidence of wrongdoing by the federal government, including the security forces, the police department that Nancy Pelosi personally controlled, letting the public see any of that is a threat to democracy. Watch.
Last night, millions of Americans tuned in to one of the most shameful hours we have ever seen on cable television.
Apparently, Chuck doesn't watch CNN or Don Lemon or himself, but that's my personal opinion, right? Okay, let's keep listening to this little wannabe dictator puppet.
Fox News host Tucker Carlson ran a lengthy segment last night arguing the January 6th Capitol attack was not a violent insurrection.
No, he didn't argue it. He showed proof that it wasn't. Tucker showed the proof. There was no weapons anywhere in any of that video. What Tucker did was a service to this entire country. He took the truth of the whole body of evidence and gave it to us, or at least more of it. So he might still be hiding something. But I think that we've gotten the best video they have that'll make the case of violent insurrection. If there were more or better video for that, you'd have seen it by now. There isn't. So what Tucker Carlson's showing us is that the video we've been showing up till now was carefully chosen and edited for the purposes of propagating the government's view of this story. These folks, left and right, Tucker's going to cover that for you. Left and right are upset because Carlson is destroying the narrative that they've been crafting for so long. So let's listen to this man violate his oath of office here.
I don't think I've ever seen a primetime cable news anchor manipulate his viewers the way Mr. Carlson did last night.
Apparently, this man never watched a single second of footage dealing with the laptop, Joe Biden's quid pro quo in Ukraine, Chinese corruption, dealing with, Russiagate. This is ridiculous right here, folks. This is... Chuck Schumer, you have no clothes, sir. All right, here we go.
I don't think I've ever seen an anchor treat the American people and American democracy with such disdain.
There's nothing that shameful that has ever appeared on American television in the history of the medium. And so, on the basis of that, the self-evident outrage of showing the public video that it paid for and has a right to see, Chuck Schumer called for the censorship of that video. Any information, and he did not dispute that it was accurate, that damages a storyline his party constructed and used must be squelched. And Schumer was explicit on that point. Because that video contradicted lies told by the Democratic Party, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, Chuck Schumer demanded that our bosses pull this show off the air.
He's going to come back tonight with another segment. Fox News should tell him not to. Fox News, Rupert Murdoch, tell Carlson not to run a second segment of lies. I urge Fox News to order Carlson to cease propagating the big lie on his network and to level with their viewers about the truth behind the efforts to mislead the public. Conduct like theirs is just asking for another January 6th to happen.
It's a threat to democracy. Pull him off the air. A couple of obvious observations. You don't often see the Senate Majority Leader openly call for censorship on the floor of the Senate as if that was totally normal and didn't contradict the spirit and the letter of the First Amendment, but of course it does. But what's really happening here, what you're seeing is hysteria, the overstatement, the crazed hyperbole, the red-in-the-face anger. What is that? Well, it's not outrage. Of course, it's fear. It's panic. Those videos, which we did not retouch, which we brought to you after running everyone by the Capitol Police to make certain that we didn't imperil anybody, we told you that last night, those videos touch a nerve because they're a threat to the lies that Chuck Schumer has been telling for the last 26 months, and not just Chuck Schumer. We should also tell you that Chuck Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, was joined in this outrage by the Senate Minority Leader, and that would be a Republican, Mitch McConnell. And they were joined by a cascade of other Republicans, Tom Tillis from North Carolina, Mitt Romney from Utah, all sharing the same outrage. And from this, we learn two things. One, you're getting close to what they really care about. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why is it so important that they would degrade themselves by telling such obvious lies and calling for censorship? Why? What are they trying to protect? That might be worth exploring, and we plan to. And the second thing that we learned from this is that they're on the same side. The Senate Majority Leader joins the Senate Minority Leader. Tom Tillis, Mitt Romney. They're all on the same side. So it's actually not about left and right. It's not about Republican and Democrat. Here you have people with shared interests. The open borders people. The people like Mitch McConnell who are living in splendor on Chinese money. the people who underneath it all have everything in common are all aligned against everyone else. And that would include almost all news organizations in this country as well. And so if you're watching this, it might be kind of interesting to keep a list, because one thing we learned today is that they're all in agreement with each other. They kind of outed themselves. They sort of showed their membership cards in whatever club this is to the public. So keep a list. If you want to know who's actually aligned, despite the illusion of partisanship, we found out today. We have a little more tape for you tonight. So if you take 3 steps back, you may notice that the one person, really, who was never blamed for anything that happened on January 6th was the very same person who was in charge of the police force, the Capitol Hill Police, that was charged with securing safety on January 6th. And that person was Nancy Pelosi. So if there was a security failure on January 6th, and demonstrably there was, that was probably Nancy Pelosi's fault. And after looking at thousands of hours of footage, we came to the conclusion that many others have reached, which is the Capitol Police were not prepared for what happened. And that's fascinating when you think about it, because there was ample warning. The federal intel and law enforcement agencies knew perfectly well there could be a massive disturbance at the Capitol. But the frontline officers on duty that day didn't know. And yet the people who kept that information from the frontline officers who were overwhelmed by thousands of people milling around the Capitol building, the people who fell down on the job, who didn't do their job, they were not punished. They were rewarded. And you have to ask yourself, why is that?
Don't forget, folks, Nancy Pelosi called off the National Guard that President Trump had set up to be there to help strengthen the defense of the Capitol. Almost like, I don't know, Tucker's being a little more conservative with his opinion. I think that there's ample evidence that this whole thing was planned from the get-go, or at least loosely planned. They might not have known exactly how it was going to go, but not all of those police officers seem to be in doubt as to what was going on. Some of them seem to think, oh, okay, well, I've got to take these barricades down and invite people in. Got to usher this guy around, you know, the shaman dude, all that stuff. Well, before we get going with today's class lesson plan, one more thing for you. I'm going to throw this up here for you. I got this off of Facebook. It's from Kyle Becker. It's Twitter. His Twitter post. He says, if the COVID lab leak theory being a quote-unquote conspiracy theory was a lie, and it is, and 15 days to stop the spread was a lie, and it was, and masks work to stop the spread was a lie, and it was, and the vaccine mandates will stop the spread was a lie, and it was, and natural immunity is a myth was a lie, and it was, and there are no side effects was a lie, and safe 100% effective was a lie, and January 6th was a violent insurrection was a lie, and they can pretty much bet that whatever the U.S. government is telling us about anything right now is also a lie. See, I'm not the only one coming down to these conclusions. Many paths, one truth. Good morning, caller. You're on the road to Concord with Joe.
Hey, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing okay today, Jimmy. How about you?
I'm well. I was till you came along. I'm
Well,
sitting here and listening to Schumer up there at that podium, and it is making me sick.
I know.
I'm going to tell you what. Tucker Carlson's got a heck of an opportunity here. And I'm saying the word heck trying to be respectful to you. I am ticked off right now. But I'm going to tell you what's really going on here. You could take that face off of Chuck Schumer in that video, and you could superimpose over it the face of Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
Or Lenin.
Mussolini.
Or Stalin. Or Mussolini. Or Castro.
Woodrow Wilson.
Or Che Guevara himself, and you will have the same guy.
Woodrow Wilson. Don't forget, he put Wilson put several 100,000 Americans in jail just for disagreeing with him.
Yep. All throughout the 20th century, these evil, I'm telling you, I'm having to check myself right now. They had to hide themselves. They had to stay in the shadows.
Yep. But
now they're flaunting it and they're rubbing our noses in it. Remember yesterday I said you're going to have to fight them sooner or later.
I understand that.
This is going to have to come to a head. What that man right there is doing, he should be drug out from behind that podium by his nostrils onto the front lawn of that facility and put on trial.
Yes. Literally sit a bench up, put a judge down, and just grab the first 12 people we find walking by and start a trial.
No, sir. No, sir. Set a bench up and bring people out of the military and put him on a military tribunal.
Yeah.
That's the way that should go down. He is a government official. He's not a civilian.
Problem is that the military is subordinate to the government in this country, Jimmy. As much as you and I are outraged and as much as we want to, this is one case where we got to follow the example set by John Adams. We got to follow the system. It's difficult.
Maybe we'd have to do it ourselves, but then you're going to have to face the military. So no, go ahead and do it by the book. Do it. Let the military go ahead.
No, that's what I'm saying. The book says it has to be a civilian court for this crime. That's remember the St. Valentine's Day massacre where John Adams defended the British soldiers, and that's one of the reasons lots of colonists were hacked off at Adams before the Declaration was signed. And he told everybody, you've got to stick to your principles. You can't allow the outrage of what they're doing turn us into them. But I get where you're at. I get where you're at.
Well, I'll tell you what it's turning me into. Have you ever seen the movie Peppermint?
Yes.
Remember the judge? Remember the line, you didn't serve justice, Judge. I will.
Yes, I understand. That makes us a vigilante, though. And at that point, we're acting outside the law as well. Unless, of course, we declare the Constitution.
We're back within the laws of nature, Judge.
I was about to say.
Yeah.
I was about to say, unless we declare the Constitution null and void, in which case we are in the laws of nature. And we've got, yes. No.
When those charged with keeping the integrity of justice become the destroyers of justice, it's time to revert back. And as Glenn, I've got to where I've been listening to the first hour of Glenn Beck again while I wait on you. And he opened his show today by saying he wants to find a way to unplug the whole system and let it reboot and start it over from the beginning.
There's only two ways to do that.
The Constitution.
Right, but there are only two ways to do that. An Article 5 convention with principled men and women leading it. Where are we going to find another bunch of founding fathers?
Yeah.
The other way is Jefferson's option. And where are we going to find the men and women to lead that? We are not the people that founded this nation. As a society, we are not that people
maybe
anymore.
We can check in that bar you were in that time when they put the militia together. Start there. I wasn't military. But I have to wonder how many Americans there are out here like me who was never military, but we're watching you guys, and we will be willing to follow your lead, done properly.
Yeah, that's the militia for you. But everybody that did that in the military, every one of us that still remembers our oath will tell you, you have to have a duly seated government in place to lead us. We're not just going to rise up against the government on our own. That's sedition. We're not going to do it.
It's got to start at the very least within the seat of a county government somewhere.
County or state. Like the state I live in. Oh, dude, if our governor said, let's form the militia and rally around the flag boys, I got a feeling Florida would become real. I mean, the first redneck army.
Florida would have at least one new citizen within 12 hours.
Yes. You know what I'm saying? So we've grown in population since COVID things started in our state here. I got a feeling we would explode if he did that, because you wouldn't be the only one heading this way.
Well, without disclosing too much personal information about myself, but you'll know where I'm going with this, I'm already halfway there.
Yes, I know. It'd be easier for you to do.
It ain't nothing but a 3-hour drive for me, brother.
And you'd be home again. So,
but yeah, I don't know. Maybe, man, my conversation with you has cheered me up somewhat, but I am so angry at that SOB. And there must be a personality conflict in the works too, because I've hated that man since I first laid eyes on him.
He's a liar.
He's just dirty. He's slimy. He's
a liar, and you're not.
Yeah.
So Aaron says he'd do a foot march to Florida and sign up to help.
Yeah, I know there are others like me out here. I can't be the only one.
You're not, but where's the leadership? And I mean, I've covered this before too, Jimmy. Even if you had the leaders, where are the followers? You know, there are not many of us in our society anymore happy to be the private. We'd all say, yeah, I got no experience in this. Where do you make me a general at? You know, I'll help. Make me a general. No, 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 dude. If you got no experience, you're a private, Jack.
Yeah.
But no,
he said that what Tucker Carlson's doing is going to cause another six.
no, what he's
He
doing.
thinks he wants that to happen.
Yes, he does. A Bubba effect. They want a
Yeah.
crisis that they can use to smash more of our rights. That's what
But
they
if
want.
he's not careful, he might get what he asked for. They might get a real one, because January the 6th wasn't a real one.
I've got a Cuban friend of mine. And I mean literally, he had to flee Cuba back when Castro took over. He was a teenager. He lives in Tennessee now. He's an American citizen and everything. He wants to have, I've been putting him off a little bit, but he wants to be a guest on the show. He wants to have that conversation, Jimmy. But until he and I come,
conversation to have publicly.
Yes, that's the
But
whole
there is
reason.
a conversation that you can have with him, and he would be very, very valuable. I'd love to hear from him.
Yeah, but until I can get him calm, that Latin blood of his, I can't control what would be said in that show, and I don't have a deedle
He
button.
sees it, doesn't he?
Oh yes, he's been calling for a civil war openly everywhere for a decade now. But he knows it. His family, he's got family members that he knew that have been killed by Castro. His family was fairly well off. They were property owners and stuff like that. He come from an affluent family in Cuba, and everybody today would say, well, that's why he's ticked off. They took all his money. He's seen it happen here.
Che Rivera probably pulled the trigger on at least some of them.
I wouldn't doubt it. But what it is he's seeing it happen here. We've had many people escape communism come here and tell us, what the heck you guys are doing? We fled. Ayn Rand told us that.
Ayn Rand was shocked when she got over here and found out saw what she saw, and this was back in the 1920s. Imagine if she came here for the first time today, how she'd be.
I know. I'm not sure she would flee here.
Interesting times.
I'm not sure she would flee here. So, yes, sir. Interesting times. Yeah, that's a Chinese proverb. May you live in interesting times. And everybody forgets the second half of it, which makes it a curse. And may you get everything you've always wanted.
Yeah. Well, if you happen to talk to Carlson, give him my regards and tell him to stand up and call this what it is. This man is promoting communism.
Oh yeah, global. Yeah,
that is their end game.
I know that. All right, Jimmy, we're going to start rewriting the Bill of Rights now.
I'm listening.
All right, brother. We'll catch you in a little bit.
All right.
Bye.
See you.
I like Jimmy. Hey, folks, anytime you want, call in. Even if all you're going to do is and yell about the snake in my ear. Yeah, go ahead. Call in, guys. I'm going to start having fun with you as well. So, might have to do bathroom wall poetry in response to those guys. Thing is, it was pointed out before we started with the lesson plan. Thing is, it was pointed out to me yesterday. Yesterday's show, y'all pay attention. Pay attention to when we have trouble. A lot of those of you in the classroom had technical troubles with your feed, no matter where you were at yesterday. The studio wasn't having any trouble. All of my feeds were monitoring fine. But all of you were having trouble. Some of you that normally watch on Rumble had to switch to Facebook. Some of you on Facebook had to switch to Rumble. You had to leave where you normally watch this show. Lots of you. And it wasn't just a handful. It was a lot of you. I heard back from you. And it was the topic of the day. Pay attention to when these things happen. There's certain times when we're doing Worship Wednesdays when I'm really doing something that irritates Satan. We have lots of trouble with the technical aspects of things. It always happens on days when it's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. So the fact that I got several calls yesterday, and did you notice there was 2 different voices that called in about the snake yesterday? We've acquired some attention. I consider it an affirmation that we're over the target. We're taking flat because we're over the target. Now we're going to see if we can put some steel on target while we're there. Drop the bombs right where they belong. All right, lesson plan time. I know I've yacked long enough. Wasted the first half hour for some of you, for y'all concerned. says on September 25th, 1789, the first Congress of the United States proposed 12 amendments to the Constitution. The 1789 joint resolution of Congress proposing the amendments is on display in the rotunda in the National Archive Museum. Fortunately, it's almost impossible to get in there to see it anymore. 10 of the proposed 12 amendments were ratified by 3/4 of the state legislatures on December 15th, 1791. The ratified articles, Articles 3 through 12, constitute the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, or the Bill of Rights. In 1992, 203 years after it was proposed, Article 2 was ratified as the 27th Amendment to the Constitution. Article 1 was never ratified. All right, let's see what we've got here. This is a transcription of the 1789 joint resolution of Congress proposing 12 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. We're going to go over the proposals, not the ones that were eventually adopted. Congress of the United States begun and held at the city of New York on Wednesday, the 4th of March, 1789. The convention of the number of states, having at the time of their adopting the Constitution expressed a desire, in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, and as extending the ground of public confidence in the government will best ensue the beneficent ends of its institutions. In other words, the Constitution wasn't quite good enough. We got to add some things to it to tie the government down a little bit. So hold on just a second here. All right. Now, here's the first. Resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America, in Congress assembled, 2/3 of both houses concurring, that the following articles be proposed to the legislatures of the several states as amendments to the Constitution of the United States, all or in any of which articles, when ratified by 3/4 of said legislature, be valid to all intents and purposes as part of the said Constitution. These articles, in addition to an amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, proposed by Congress and ratified by the legislatures of the several states pursuant to the 5th article of the original Constitution. The 5th article? You mean an Article 5 convention? We've already had one? That's what they just said. And they're calling for another. So they're using the Constitution to propose the amendments, right? If you've watched the show long enough, you've seen that I've got this really big, thick, white covered book that I bring in from time to time. That is the official congressional record of the minutes kept by the people who wrote the paper we're reading right now, as they argued out the wording for these amendments. And when you go through it, you see what it was they were trying to do. And you see why they settled on the language they settled on. In some cases, the record will show you they chose the wording because they wanted to avoid this thought. In some cases, they chose the wording because they thought it protected another thought. So any judge anywhere dealing with the Bill of Rights that wants to know what the heck they were trying to do and what they mean only has to go to that book. And everything that judge needs to know to rule on that, whatever case is before him or her, is right there in that book. But they will go anywhere and everywhere except to that book. I wonder why. Oh, because that book would tie their hands down. There you go. They don't want their hands tied. They're all little bitty gods. All right, let's get moving. Article the first. This was the first proposed amendment. It says, after the first enumeration required by the first article of the Constitution, there should be one representative for every 30,000 until the number shall amount to 100, after which the portion shall be regulated by Congress, that there shall be no less than 100 representatives, no less than one representative for every 40,000 persons, until the number of representatives shall amount to 200, after which the proportion shall be so regulated by Congress that there shall not be less than 200 representatives, nor more than one representative for every 50,000 persons. Okay, this is one case where it was a good thing that we didn't ratify that amendment. Otherwise, we'd have 7,000 of these hammer knockers in Congress, just in the House. So, yeah. I'm glad we didn't do this one, okay? It's bad enough with the whatever, we got 300 or 400 of them now. Imagine 7,000 of these people. Article the second. No law varying the compensation for the services of the senators and representatives shall take effect until an election of representatives shall have intervened. Like we said earlier when we were reading the intro, this was later ratified. But what this means is I can't vote myself a raise. I can vote for a raise, but I have to get reelected before I'll actually benefit from that raise. This, yeah, I wish this would have been even tighter. Now that it's been ratified, we'd have to go into the amendments. We're not doing that today. We're doing the Bill of Rights. This is what was proposed. These are the other proposals. The language doesn't change from this point. So let me go run through the slide. We don't need to do all of these. Article the 11th, 12th. Okay. This is where they signed it. Right here. This is the Bill of Rights. These are the ones that were ratified. The language doesn't change. We were reading the original proposal. I just wanted to go through those first two that didn't get done on the first time around. This is where we start. Bill of Rights. It says, note, the following text is a transcript of the first 10 amendments to the Constitution in their original form. These amendments were ratified December 15th, 1791, and form of what is known as the Bill of Rights. And also another note, the capitalization and punctuation in this version is from the enrolled original of the joint resolution of Congress proposing the Bill of Rights, which is on permanent display in the rotunda of the National Archives building, Washington, D.C. In other words, they spell things differently back then than we do today. This is the original spelling you're about to see. Amendment 1. Here's where we're going to start editing, boys and girls. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. We need to do something with this because apparently it's not good enough to go back to the notes that will already express what I'm about to change for you. We've got to put this in language for those people who arrive to government riding the short bus. Y'all got me there? All right. Congress shall make no law in respecting an establishment of religion. Congress shall make no law establishing a national religion, nor the prohibition of or free exercise of thereof that religion. So we're gonna have to add something in there. We're gonna have to go back to one of the original. Madison screwed us up here. Go read the notes. You'll see. Madison thought that this was plain English. Everybody else was trying to tell him, hey man, no, they're not going to understand that in the future. You got to bind them down harder. He didn't do that. So basically what this should say is Congress shall make no law creating a national religion, nor prohibiting the free exercise of your religious beliefs. And then it says, or abridging the freedom of the press, where the press is anybody writing in a political manner. And yeah, remember back then the press was any pamphleteer. It wasn't somebody that the government just gave permission to. I tell you what, we're rewriting, right? This is a free thought form class, right? Okay, let's go back. Congress shall make no law, regulation, or require licensing for or of the establishment of a national religion or prohibiting exercise thereof, nor any law, regulation, or requiring license of, which would abridge the freedom of speech or of the press, where the press is defined as anybody who's writing in a political or persuasive manner, or the right of the people to assemble. Notice we just done away with you don't need a permit anymore. And the petition the government for redress of grievance. So making a law, that wasn't good enough. We need to add something in there that addresses all their ends arounds. Make no law, regulation, permit, ordinance, or other restrictive decree by government requiring permission, blah, blah, blah. So this amendment needs to be, we're probably going to have to double it in size. I'm going to work on this, but it has to be done in light of the natural rights, natural law, natural rights. What we're trying to do here, you've got a freedom of conscience, freedom of your religious beliefs, in and out of government. In other words, if I get elected and I'm a Mormon, I get to practice my Mormonism from the White House. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Catholicism. Whatever. That's not technically what was going on at the time. If you read the notes, they were just trying to protect Christianity, the different denominations of Christianity, not any and every religion. But in our day and age, we might have to make allowance for that. Otherwise, we get everybody's, what's in a wad. But we also going to have to tell them that, hey, freedom of speech does not require a permit, and freedom of the press does not require the government definition of press. We have got to rewrite this amendment to bind those little tyrants down. Amendment 2. This one's easy. It says a well-regulated militia. Everybody back then knew what that meant. Being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. All right. A well-organized and locally led militia defined as all military-aged, able-bodied men, being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people in their individual persons to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. There we go. Road dog, redress a grievance. That means that you can go to the government and say, hey, y'all ain't doing your job. Fix it. In other words, you have a right to demand that the government does its job. I'm answering a question in Rumble. If the comment is in Rumble, I can't throw it up on the screen so you can read along. That's why I just let you know what's going on. So that would fix the militia. And nobody would ever be able to tell me, well, that's the National Guard. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Well, we might even have to tell them, that a thoroughly organized and properly equipped, militia, defined as all able-bodied men of military age and under the control of their local government, the supervisory control of their local government. That's a lot of wording just because nobody wants to go back and look at the 1828 definition of the militia in Webster's dictionary. If you do that, militia states all of that. It's all inherent in that word. But now we've got a lot of little busybodies that don't know how to read the English of the times that want to read that, what it means today. It's, the purpose here was to try and make as few wording as possible, as few words added to this document as possible. Keep it simple, stupid, kiss it. The problem is that we're dealing with people who are looking for, by hook or by crook, any way they can get around, over, under the document that binds them down. Woodrow Wilson even flat out said that he did not like the restrictions of the Constitution. So did Barack Obama. He's on audio saying, well, unfortunately, the Constitution ties my hands in too many areas. For a reason, you moron. Amendment 3. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in any manner to be prescribed by law. Okay, at the time they wrote that, everybody understood that you put soldiers in somebody's house to spy on them. So what we're going to do is we're going to totally change this. The federal government shall not violate the individual's privacy, nor use any government apparatus to spy on, monitor, or otherwise surveil the American people without a legal warrant to do so. And by legal, there are a lot of things that are required in a warrant according to the Constitution, that in our laws, that just aren't followed anymore. We'll get to them in a minute. They're in the other amendments. But this one here is about spying and violation of privacy. We need to put that back in the Constitution because they've interpreted it away from us. Amendment 4, the right of the people to be secure in their persons. That means your body and your personal effects. I'll come back and comment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or thing to be seized. Holy cow, do we got some work to do here. Hold on, boys and girls. The right of the people to be secure in their persons. That's your body. No jab mandates. What? Amendment 4 says no jabs. Oh, but it's an emergency. We're going to have to put somewhere in here, Article Bill of Rights, Amendment number 11. There shall be no eradication of the Constitution by declaring emergency. A government official who does that shall be immediately neck stretched to make themselves at least 2 foot longer than they were, with the extended addition between the point of their throat down here by their clavicles and the top of the base of their neck. Meaning I'm going to stretch your neck, Jack. No trial. I'm tired of this. You do not get around the Constitution by declaring an emergency. That's a progressive idea that is, the whole purpose of it is to get around the Constitution. That person's declaring war on you whenever they do. Oh, but we're just trying to save everybody. That is the rallying cry of every tyrant that has ever lived. The tyrant that wants to save you is lying. You have a right in your personal body, right there, Fourth Amendment. Why did that have to be written? Because the founding fathers in their infinite wisdom knew that we were going to have progressives show up at some point in time. You also have a right to be secure in your houses. Joe, there's no privacy in the Constitution. No, it's right there in Article 4, Amendment 4. You have a right to be secure in your papers, no matter where they're at. If you've got them on you or in your car or in your whatever, you have, and effects. That's your property. Papers and effects. That's your personal property, guys. Against unreasonable searches and seizures. What's defined by reasonable? Well, that's covered here if you pay attention to what's going on. It shall not be violated. If you violate it, there's no slap on the wrist, Mr. Government person. You need to be prosecuted because you just broke the law. This is a law, people. This is not a suggestion. Amendment 4, Fourth Amendment, that's a law. When you do an unreasonable search, an illegal search, it's not a case of, well, the accused gets to go free today, slap on the hands, No, Mr. Officer, you're no longer a police officer. You are charged with violation of the Constitution and your oath of office. They don't even provide for a crime for that. You know that? You can't even. And we expect the inmates to run themselves properly. Jeez, founding fathers were a lot smarter than that. A warrant has to be issued after probable cause has been declared, and it has to be supported by an oath or of an affirmation. That means there's somebody has to swear it out. Said, hey, Joe's got such and such at his house, and it's illegal. Here, no private, no confidential informants. You've got to tell the government who you are, because I have a right to face you. It's got to be public information. This is what you're looking for. Joe's got this, and he's got a Claymore mine in his house. Technically, that's protected under the Second Amendment, but whatever. And you're going to swear out an oath of affirmation, and you're going to describe the place to be searched, and the persons or things to be seized, and what you're looking for, the people and the things you're looking for. So if you break into my house and you're looking for a Claymore mine and you find a submachine gun, a bazooka, well, you can't go after them. Today, the way we do it, the courts just say, oh, you can do whatever you want. They don't even swear out warrants anymore until after the fact. Watch NCIS or Law and Order and look how loose they've gotten with jail these people. Jail them. The prosecutors, the district attorneys, the police officers who serve these illegal, jail them all. The judges who support them, jail them. Life ought to be good in a Turkish prison. What do I mean by that? I'm going to build a nice big wire cage out in the middle of nowhere in the Mojave Desert. I'm going to dump your butt in there with a blanket and a bucket. If you don't have family come and feed you and give you whatever you need to survive, tough. Well, Joe, they'll die. Tough. And here's the front gate. This is the only gate in and out. This is the day and the time you need to be here at noon on this day. If you're not, you stay in that prison forever. Well, I don't have a watch. Better get somebody to bring you one. I don't have a calendar. Better get somebody to bring you one. Well, there's no law in this prison. Somebody's going to take it from me. Sucks to be you, doesn't it? Joe, that's cruel and unusual punishment. No, it isn't. That's law of the jungle. That's life outside of civil society, which is what you chose when you decided to break the laws to the extent that you damaged and undermined the people's government. God, I'm tired of this. Amendment number 5, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on punishment and indictment of a grand jury. All those people in jail for January 6th, infamous crime, there's been no jury to indict them and put them in jail. They're being held illegally. Round up the entire Democratic Party from Congress and the Senate, toss them in jail. Except in a case arising on the land of naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Oh, you see, they're going to say, well, January 6th was a public danger. Well, guess what? Having a Democrat anywhere near the seat of office is a public danger. Republicans, next time you have the House and Senate, just declare that, outlaw your opponent's party. Play the game they're playing, because they're trying to do that to you right now using January 6th. That's why they're so ticked off. Their plan to get rid of their opposition is going down the drain because Tucker Carlson's showing that they're made a lie to justify their plan. And if you think I'm kidding, you need to pay attention, because they've been calling for the outlaw of the Republican Party. It's in the media. Haven't seen that, have you? Well, maybe I know what we're supposed to bring to you on Monday for Manic Mondays. I'm going to blow a vein, Jimmy. I'm in line with you today. The only thing I'm able to do right now is control my curse words. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life and limb. Well, yeah. Well, I couldn't convict you criminally, so I'll go ahead and the government will prosecute you for the exact same crime. This time it's a violation of civil rights. You know, the officers with Rodney King, that was double jeopardy. Well, no, Joe, don't play that technical game with me. Form and function defined, and you tried them twice because you couldn't get them the first time, and it was all politically motivated trial to begin with. Nor shall be compelled in any crime or case to be a witness against himself. Oh, well, if your DNA belongs to you and your fingerprints belong to you, and they're using them, oh, you left them at the scene, Joe. They're still mine. They're still mine, right? Secure in my person's house, papers, and effects, no matter where they're at. Yeah, I know I'm treading on something that's really, really ugly right now, right? Physical evidence. How do we put most people in jail? Well, maybe we have to rely on something a little bit more concrete than that. Well, then, Joe, a lot of guilty people will go free. Well, not if you get right with the Second Amendment and you let citizens take care of that problem for you. Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. That means no more confiscating their money just because you found drugs in their house. Good night. The federal and local state governments have all but abolished the Fifth Amendment. They've just whooped it away. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Ten, nine, eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm no words, folks. No words. This amendment doesn't even exist anymore except in word. Just lip service. Just lip service. That's it. It's the only way it exists anymore. Sixth Amendment, Article 6. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. We got trials nowadays that don't go on for 2 years. By an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have a compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in their favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for their defense. Okay, we do this all the time. We drag out cases. We do not give an impartial jury. If you've ever gone through voir dire or whatever, when they pick a jury, they're looking for the stupidest person they can find on both sides of the the prosecution and defense. They're just looking for stupid people. There's no way I get seated on a jury. I would not make it through the process at all. I'm one of the best people you could possibly put on a jury because I'm going to demand that the state make their case. I'm also not going to be susceptible to these stupid fairy tales that defense lawyers like to spin. You're going to have to bring logic and reason, Bubba. But then the other thing they do here is they'll, January 6th, right? Hey, all of y'all are in jail for a violent insurrection. Yeah, but there's tape that shows I wasn't. Oh, no, can't have that. That's a violation of but it was public crime, of danger, Joe. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. The tape proves it wasn't. We've got lots of little tin horn dictators running around our governments at all levels, from the county all the way up, from city ordinances all the way up. I'm going to say something you're not going to like. It's your fault. Mine, yours. Because we let them get there and stay there. It's our fault. You're in a country where nominally you have the right to elect these little tin horn dictators. I live in a county right now where we've got a city where a little tin horn dictator come along and said, I want to be mayor, but this mayor does such a good job. Nobody's ever going to elect me over her. So they accused her of 80-something crimes falsely. Had her arrested, charged. FBI got involved. 2 years later, come to find out, she's not guilty of any of it. The only 2 crimes they still got her on were process crimes that the FBI created in the course of pursuing what they knew to be false claims. And now that we know all of this was done, the current mayor got elected. Our local police chief knows all about it, but because one good old boy is washing the hands of another, the police chief in that city won't do anything about it. He's as corrupt as the mayor is. And the people allow it. You know, there was a case like this, what was it, Tennessee? I don't remember where. It was after World War II. I think it was Tennessee or Kentucky, somewhere up in there. You had a good old boy system where they rigged an election and the sheriff was supporting just like what we have now. But the veterans who had come back from World War II said, we just fought a war to get rid of this type of dictatorship. And they went to the county seat and they took care of business. And they removed all of them by force. And nothing ever happened to those veterans. Why? Because they were close enough to a society that still understood the rule of law, where all the people in that community were like, hey, the government was no longer legitimate. It revolved us back to the rule of nature, law of nature. And we took care of business. I know a lot of people don't like thinking that way, but we need to get back to that. Because the city I'm thinking about here in my county, a little bit of redneck justice would cure that problem for a generation, at least. Because anybody else that wanted to get in there and play that game would realize, you know what? I'll end up dead in the street real fast. Well, Joe, that's not civilization. It's not civilization when the law enforcement and the government get into coercion with each other, when they collaborate with each other to overthrow the people in their government. That's not civilization either. That's subversion and it's tyranny. And they are no longer, by definition, they are no longer a government. They have violated the social contract. Oh, the Declaration of Independence just popped back up again, didn't it? Now we know why the progressives wanted to get rid of that. Yes, thank you, Aaron. Athens, Tennessee. That's where that happened. Was it 1946, 45, 46, somewhere in there, 47? The Bill of Rights was written specifically to protect us against the people that are now in charge of this country, from dog catcher all the way up to president. Oh, by the way, if you read this amendment, show me the legal justification for plea bargains. It's not in there. Criminal prosecution, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. Oh, Joe, we're giving them the opportunity to waive their right. No. That's an abomination. It's bastardization of the process of, well, we've got too many crimes. Oh, then write fewer laws. Yeah, didn't think about that, did you little control freaks? Amendment 7. In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in a court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. Oh, we do this all the time. We appeal and the courts they go, common law be gone. Well, no, Joe, they still got stare decisis. Not according to Blackwell, Sir William Blackstone, rather, and his common law document. No, we don't do that anymore. Now what we do is common law now is just what the judges said, not what the juries said. Also, this needs to be amended. $20 back then is not $20 now. $20 now would fill up the courts. $20 back then, what's $20? That was a 1 ounce gold piece. So we're probably talking about $3,500 right now, $2,500 to $3,500. We could amend that real quick just by saying shall not exceed the value of 1 ounce gold. The right of trial by jury shall be preserved. People don't get that anymore. The government won't even give you that. But this is common law, right? This is civil suits. No. We're going to have a discussion on what common law was. Common law was more than just civil suits. Remember, we've read from the founding fathers where it says that it was common law that we could put you in jail for blasphemy against Jesus, the Savior. That wasn't when he's talking about that founding father was mentioning that. He wasn't talking about just fining you because somebody else sued you for saying a bad word. He was talking about putting you in jail, and it was a matter of common law. Did you know that in common law, back on the Founders' Day, you could bring the Bible in? It was a law book. This whole thing right here, we're going to have to rewrite this amendment so that we can bind the lawyers down and explain to them what this actually means in a way that they can't just weasel their way out of. Of course, that's the problem. This is why Adams told us this document, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, they're written only for a moral people. They will not work for an immoral people. Now, moral people are religious. We are no longer a religious society. So we are no longer suited to the liberties that we're trying to defend. Quit trying to defend this country. It is just, the United States of America is well deserving of God's judgment, and let it come. You heard me right. Bring it down, Yahweh. Judge away. We deserve it. Bring it. Because my allegiance is higher than that to man. That's me personally. But bring it. Judge this nation. Wipe it off the face of the earth. And why do I say that? Because I know that his word is true and he will preserve his remnant. And he will rebuild with what he preserves. I hope and pray I'll be among that number. I may not be. Oh well. Maybe I deserve to be judged as well. Yeah, we're rolling right through the break. We get done today, we get done today. This nation's not worth preserving anymore. There's nothing about it that's good anymore. We've lost what we once were. The people are rotten to the core. The people. Scripture tells me I'm going to get leaders commensurate with my value as the people. Evil people, evil leaders. It's meant to teach us to quit being evil. No, Aaron, not the thunder. Bring down the fire. This is the Eighth Amendment. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. Some of your speeding tickets would record, well, those aren't even laws. You're breaking a regulation. Technically, that's not supposed to be, well, that's state government, so whatever. Amendment 9, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. And yet, they'll tell you, if the right is not listed in the Constitution, you don't have it. Where's your right to life? Where's your right to liberty? Those are not in the Constitution. Where's your right to the pursuit of happiness? That's not in the Constitution, but yet the Declaration says those are rights. Where's your right to privacy? You don't have one. It's not in the Constitution. Yeah, we just read about it. It's in the Fourth and Fifth Amendments. It's also right here. And yet the would-be experts, self-appointed, good for nothing but living off of the lifeblood of others, they're all parasites, every one of them. If you work in government, you're a parasite. Yeah, I know. There was a time when it was an honorable service. It isn't anymore. Everybody's there to enrich themselves in one way, shape, form, or another. Not my words, founding fathers. Government's where everybody tries to live the best off of the work of others. It's paraphrasing. I don't know the exact quote, but it's what they said. 10th Amendment, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. That means about 90% of what the federal government does right now is illegal. Illegal. If I ever got a chance to run for president, you know what my platform would be? I ain't gonna do nothing for you. Elect me so I can start getting rid of all the illegal crap that's been put in place up until now. I'll just start getting rid of people. You elect me and I'll get rid of it. So if I did get elected, one of the very first things I would do is, hey, if you're in the executive, I'm going to keep you, and you, and the rest of you are fired. I just solved the bureaucratic problem because technically they're under the executive. I just fire them all and then refuse to hire anybody else. Congress can apportion money for them, but they're just going to be fired. IRS, just going to fire everybody. You do what you want, Congress. I don't care, but there's no IRS. I fired them. HHS? Fired. FBI? Fired. Well, they're under the Department of Justice, Joe. Technically, you might want to investigate that law a little bit. Not quite. I'd be getting rid of as many people as I possibly could. All of our federal lands, I've got this federal wildlife. I'll sell it. Well, Joe, then nobody will protect the. Oh, well. Oh, well. You got land sitting there that could be used for the betterment of the living. You're preserving it for the future, right? I got a little newsflash for you. The future is just as dead as the past. What? No, they're the living. No, they're not. They're dead. They don't exist. Neither do those behind us. You run the country today with the living as best you can. Yes, I know you have to think about the future, but that's a religious thing. That's an existential ideal. That's not good governance. See, that's one of the problems. Government wants to make itself into a religion, and the people who are at the top want to be God. It keeps coming back to this over and over again, doesn't it? I got one other thing for you. I don't know if we're going to make a full 2 hours today. It's probably a good thing, too, because like Wade said, the use of vulgar language is a sign of weakness. I might be getting weak, Wade. The proposed text of the original 13th Amendment. The original 13th Amendment. We've gone through the first 12. This is the next one that was proposed. It's called the Corwin Amendment. There's the picture on the right. The text, I blew it up for you. The operative section of the Corwin Amendment states, no amendments shall be made to the Constitution which will authorize or give to Congress the power to abolish or interfere with any state with the domestic institutions thereof, including that of persons held to labor or service by the laws of said state. In referring to enslavement as domestic institutions and persons held to labor or service, rather than by the specific word slavery, the amendment reflects wording in the draft of the Constitution considered by the delegates to the Constitutional Convention of 1787, which referred to enslaved people as persons held to service. While philosophically opposed to enslavement itself, President-elect Abraham Lincoln, still hoping to avert war, did not object to the Corwin Amendment. Stopping short of actually endorsing it, Lincoln, in his first inaugural address on March 4th, 1861, said of the amendment, I understand a proposed amendment to the Constitution, which amendment, however, I have not seen, has passed Congress, to the effect that the federal government shall never interfere with the domestic institutions of the states, including that of persons held to service, holding such a provision to now be implied constitutional law. I have no objection to it being made expressed and irrevocable. Either way, just weeks before the outbreak of the Civil War, Lincoln transmitted the proposed amendment to the governors of each state, along with a letter noting that former President Buchanan had signed it. Had those states ratified it, slavery would have been made legal in this country. Lincoln freed the slaves. Lincoln himself said that was not his goal. As Lincoln was about keeping the Union together. And he attacked the South. It was all about slavery, Joe. No, it wasn't. It was about states' rights. I know Glenn Beck went on over this and said I'm wrong. Glenn's wrong because he wants to be seen as politically correct. He doesn't want to be seen as, oh, you're supporting slavery. Well, neither am I. I'm not. I'm supporting the principle that was laid out in the Constitution and the Declaration. Remember, Madison, Jefferson, they said that you were free to secede. Even Alexis de Tocqueville figured that one out. He was a Frenchman that came along in 1830s. Lincoln is the source of our problems today. And we make him a hero. And he's where it starts. It doesn't matter why the southern states wanted to secede. The Constitution said they had the right. See, we're rewriting the Constitution. That 13th Amendment, it's in view here. You're not taught about that anymore. Lincoln said, as long as I can preserve the Union, I don't care. So when the states seceded, which they had right to do, he attacked. because he wanted to keep the Union in place. He became King George and did exactly what King George did to the colonies when the colonies seceded. Unfortunately, he won. Now, if you go read enough of Jefferson, you're eventually going to run into a letter where he wrote, and he said, let him go. They'll eventually realize that slavery will collapse on itself, and they'll seek back into the Union. And he said, they'll come back on their knees groveling. He said, and that's the time to punish them. How far have we strayed from where we're supposed to be? I don't. I've been saying this for almost the better part of 2 decades now. This country's not going to be saved. You're not going to save it. Quit making it an object of reverence. It isn't. It's just a nation. It's just a government. It's run its time. The people are no longer worthy of liberty. We're not. We're not a good and moral society. I know everybody's, well, I'm a good person. No, you're not. None of us are. Good googly moogly. I know I'm not. It's one of the reasons I don't like doing this show. Who am I to talk to you? I know me. I got more problems than the average person, average 5 or 6 of you together. The problem is the more I work on them, the more I see I got to work on. The more I learn, the more I realize how messed up I am. But at least I'm busy trying to work on Joe so that I don't have time to work on anybody else. What bugs me is there's a whole lot of Karens and no, just Karens. Karens with and without a stem on the apple. They're all Karens. Some of them just have stems on the apple. Channel your inner Bill Cosby there. You'll figure it out if you're old enough. They're all busy running around trying to fix other people rather than themselves. And that's where we have problems. Because when you're going to run around saying, you should be this, 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 and that, and I'm going to make you do it. Where's the government at? I'm going to make you do this. Oh, you're a god. We've got so many little gods running around. And when everybody's a god, oh, well, either you're going to have a God Most High come along and put order back in place, or you're just going to have a war. I think either way, we're going to end up with a war. But I know people call for a civil war in this country right now. I'll tell you exactly what would happen. Alexander Dugin. You'd end up with the Northeast going to Europe and becoming communist because Russia would take all that crap over. The West Coast would go to China. Parts of the North would end up with Canada. Parts of the Southwest would end up with Mexico. And the Southeast might actually remain semi-free because like Dugin says, there'd be barbarians here. And that's how the rest of the country sees us rednecks. But you know why we're barbarians? On my Facebook page, I ran into as we in the Marine Corps would have called him a dark green comedian. And he's talking about doing a show in Houma, Louisiana. I got friends in Houma. We got family in Houma, Louisiana. I've been there. That happens to be where I was. I think it was 1980, Miracle on Ice, when we won the gold medal in hockey in the Olympics. Pretty sure it was either Houma or Slidell. I was there that year. That's where that happened. But he's making fun of rednecks, and he says, "Well, you're never going to invade this country." He says, if you try to invade us, there'd be every truck and NASCAR heading, convoys heading south from everywhere in the South. All them rednecks go in there. And Marine Corps show up 3 hours later and go, what happened? So it's all over, man. Party's over. We caught them on the beach, killed them all. Problem is that might work in the South. That won't work anywhere else in the world. Not in this country. The people who would do that are too far and few between. So Dugan might be right. The South might stand on its own, but not for long, because it'd be surrounded by evil. You'd have one of two choices. Both of them are religious in nature. You'd have to get right with the Bible real fast, and more than likely you'd have to get your little booty over to Israel, because that tends to be this seems to be the one place on earth that God's still defending. So you better go make right with him and get over there. Get under his umbrella. Otherwise, you're going to just end up in the communist pocket at some point. It's going to happen. It was written. I don't know what to do, folks. I don't. Because you're looking for an answer I can't give you. You're looking for the wrong answer. I've been giving you the right answer for 100 and now 138 shows after today. I've been giving it to you. You don't want to hear it. I'll keep giving it to you until either we get a good classroom here of people of enough size that we actually start making a difference, at least in our own little circles, or until we're just gone. I fully expect to be just gone. Not because I'm a pessimist, because I know this. I know the season. I know the spirit of this age, and I know this season we're in. I know what to expect. Like I said, right now every fiber of my being wants to go all scripture all the time. But I got to keep a foot in both worlds for us. I do. Because those who are listening are asking me to help with that. Connect the dots. I do have a talent for that. I know that. Make me arrogant? If that's your opinion, okay. For me, it's just fire's hot, water's wet. It's just a fact. But as long as I have a talent for that, I need to share it. Otherwise, I'd be putting my talent under the stone, right? Burying it in the dirt. I'll get judged for that. One week from today, I hope to be done with my old business. And I'm regretting that. I'm going to miss it. It's part of my life for 21 years, almost 22. It's the air I breathe. And as I'm getting close to being done with it, there's so much left undone. And frankly, just walking out into this show and nothing but this show, scary. Scary. At least with my business, I was making something. I was creating something out of raw materials. And I served people that way too. I mean, it might have been just a stupid model hobby, right? They built plastic models, but it was how those folks relaxed. And I've been watching the chat rooms for the modelers. They're missing my business. I left a huge hole in my industry. And they're already complaining because there's nobody to fill in the void. I'm going to miss it. And I don't know what this has in store. I don't know where this is going to go. I'm going to walk on faith. And I wonder how many of you listening to me do that. You have to. You just have to trust him. And you got to bend yourself in alignment to him. You have to accept him and his ways, not yours. We can't even do that with the Constitution. We can't get in alignment and follow the principles, ideals, the spirit of that document. And we expect to be saved. Somebody else is going to save us so that we can keep being, a leisure. I've been, I just started it last night, but little book by David Pawson. He's a preacher in England. God recently called him home. He's talking about degreasing the church. And he means getting the Greco-Roman thinking out of a believer's mind. And it's got me looking at the fact that I might have to, I tell you that you need to do this all the time. I might be about to tear up my foundation and rearrange it and put it back in place again. It might be well underway by Monday. I do it so often. I do it quick. Just rip the Band-Aid off and get it done. One of the things I'm running into, I already knew about. He's just putting in a little more clarity for me. And it's going to affect us. If you're after natural law, natural rights, according to, the way the founders understood it, you got to change your thinking a little bit. Problem is they put too much grease in their ideas. The Greek philosophers. For those who have an ear to hear, the philosophers, the Greek they're Gnostic in nature. And there's a duality to man, a spirit side and a material side. That's not That is not how the Hebrew mind works. The Hebrew mind is you're one and the same. Genesis didn't say that God breathed life, breathed the spirit into the clay, and then Adam became a man with a spirit. It said that the clay became a living soul. The clay is that's the living soul. The Hebrew mindset is the idea of a being, a nephesh. It's a breathing being, a being that breathes. It's the body that becomes immortal in your Bible. It's not the spirit. It's the body becomes immortal. That's what the resurrection is. It's about an immortal body. And what's that got to do with the Constitution? Well, the Greeks are the ones that taught us to live for leisure rather than work. And the reason this country did so well is that the Puritans were closer to the Hebrew mindset. They worked. The Amish still do that today. They worked. They worked and they worshiped. And they worked as unto God. And when Ephraim, trained heifer, loves to thresh, loves to work. When God's people are doing things appropriately, they're rewarded for it. But the more Greek in mindset that you become, the more trouble you make for yourself because you're getting farther away from the way you were designed to live. So you pile yourselves up in cities, you make a whole bunch of money in 3 or 4 hours a day, you work all week for the weekend, then you do whatever you want on the weekend. That's not the way we were designed. So you start operating outside of the way you were designed, you wonder why your world goes crazy. You operate outside of the Constitution and the way it was designed to work, you wonder why the government goes crazy. Outside of the way our laws were set up, you wonder why that doesn't work. I mean, that's like, come on, folks. When's the last time you got down and started thinking to yourself, what exactly is it that I'm trying to save here in this country? Because remember, I've told you, Locke drew the first and second treaties on government from the book of Romans, chapters 1 and 2. For the most part, his words, not mine. You go to Amazon, you hunt around long enough, you'll find it. It's the first, it's John Locke's expose on the book of Romans, chapters 1 and 2. You can get it on PDF. It's on my Kindle. I think it cost me 99 cents. Nobody wants to read it. It's brilliant. Yeah, Sir Isaac Newton. Go read his book on the book of Revelations. He did more work in prophecy than he did in physics. Of course, you probably don't know about that. Don't want to teach you that the people who invented science were believers. See, that's something the Greeks did. Separate the spirit from the body. So the material world's not as important as the spiritual world. So you can do whatever you want in the material world. It's what happens to you in the spiritual world that's important. So as long as your spirit's okay, you can be a horrible person in the flesh. They don't care. That mindset's been inherited to us. It's in us. It's in everything we eat, breathe, and drink, and we can't see it. Unless you start looking for it specifically. You're not going to see it unless somebody else shows it to you. We're a people of muddled thinking. Everybody's doing what they think's best in their own mind. As in the days of Noah. You think that Bible doesn't have anything to do with your life nowadays? I know you say, not me, Joe. No, you don't. You don't read it. You cannot understand the Constitution unless you understand the Bible. It's the number one source referenced by the Founding Fathers in the making of our Declaration and our Constitution. 1 in 3 references can be traced right to the Bible. So you're a believer. Your butt's in the pew every Sunday, right? Wrong day. Oh, I know. I'm going to be giving a lecture on. No. Nope. Stop. 0, as they'd say in boot camp, means freeze. Lock it up. Come to attention and don't move. I'm right. I know I'm right. I can show you in the scriptures, and I can show you where the churches changed it. It's why the Muslims worship on Friday. That's their holy day. And Muhammad specifically said he moved it to Friday because that was the busiest commercial day of the week for the Jews because they were getting ready for the Sabbath. Even Islam originally recognized the Sabbath was a Saturday. So no. We worship on the wrong day. That's already a problem. Not because it's a commandment. I know a lot of people think it is. Me, Joe, The more I've studied it, the more I don't think it's a commandment. I think it's a seal that tells you you're faithful to his commands. That's your seal showing the spirit world I belong to God, Yahweh. Okay, so your butt's in the seats every Sunday. I teach Sabbath study. Got a lot of students in that class. They love the way I teach. Very few of them actually read their Bibles for themselves. They're going to leave that to Joe to teach them. There are times where I want to quit teaching because of that right there. They won't do their own work. And that's their immortal soul, the eternal life that they're worrying about, or should be, and aren't. And now I come here and you're all sitting here, teach us about how to save the country, Joe. You're not even worried about saving yourself. What the heck should we be worried about a country for? But you see there again, that's that Greek thinking about eternity rather than the here and now. But in the Hebrew mindset, they're one and the same. There is no supernatural world and natural world in the Hebrew mindset. So the more I'm learning, the more I realize, hey, I might have to take my foundation apart, put it back together again. Okay, well, that's spiritual stuff. That's scripture stuff, Joe. What about the government? You're going to have to take apart what you think the Constitution is and isn't, put it back together again. You're going to have to start with the Declaration before you can get there. And you can't understand the Declaration unless you understand your scriptures. I don't know. I keep trying to point you to the way out. Theater's on fire. Doors wide open. You can see the light from outside, but anyway but that way. Stay in the darkness, get killed by the fire and the smoke that you can't see. I just realized how great a metaphor that is for hell. There's the light. Follow the light. Oh, no. Where's the main entrance? Let's go to the back. That's dark, man. Smoke. I can feel the fire, the heat. I can't see anything. We're going to all die. Yeah, well, don't follow that light. I can't possibly be that easy. Okay. Enough. I know it's supposed to be a 2-hour show. I got that. I've heard from a few of you. If you're here for 2 hours just to be entertained, you're on the wrong show. Glenn Beck's over on the other channel somewhere. I'm here until the class is over. Some days you'll get an hour. Some days you might get 2.5 to 3. All depends on the day. Class is over. I got work to do. You do too. On Monday, I'm going to bring you some headlines. I think I'm going to bring you some things, more things that have been up, government's been up to that it's gone underneath most our radar. I'll bring it to you. I'll show you what's going on. It's all going to be connected to just growing tyranny, evil, ugliness in this world. People seem to be fascinated by train wrecks. I'll bring you a train wreck. But Tuesday, I remembered what Sharky gave me to do. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship. See, that used to be part of the spirit of this country as well. That's a Hebrew thing. Rather than working for other people as a slave, work for yourself. Trust God to make sure that you have work every day. So we'll have fun then. And then next Wednesday, we're going to start prepping for basics. If you're on a Worship Wednesday attender, we're going to start getting ready to go back, start from the very beginning, and start moving forward. We're going to be doing deliberate shows so that they can be shared with others. Get back to the ancient way. That's what your scripture actually calls it. It doesn't call it Christianity, doesn't call it Judaism, doesn't call it Catholicism, doesn't call it Protestantism, calls it the way. That's the word in your Bible. We'll get there. Throwback Thursday next week? Don't know. Next Friday? Might be time to revisit that National Divorce and Secession show again. I need to really hammer this one down hard. I think it's time. We'll see. Spirit might lead me some other direction. I love each and every one of you. Thank you for being here, especially those few of you that stayed with us today. I've been watching the show. Hey, remember I tell you that things go back and forth? There's 9 on each show right now. I don't know what that means because I know there are more people watching than just that, but they're equal on Facebook and on Rumble. What's that tell me? I don't care about how many people. When the scale is equal, I was right where God wanted me to be talking. I hope you heard it today. I love you guys. I thank you for being here. Y'all stay safe and have a good weekend. We'll see you Monday. This time it's for real.